Today, we are tracking a microscopic killer. It's a parasite that's so clever it turns our own immune system into its personal taxi service. And it causes a disease with a nickname that sounds like something out of a horror movie, black fever. So what are we talking about? The answer is visceral leishmaniasis. We're going to follow the incredible journey of the parasite that causes it, all the way from a simple insect bite to a full-blown invasion of our body's most important systems.
All right, let's start with the disease itself. Its nickname is pretty grim, but for good reason. It actually hints at one of the most chilling symptoms.
Kala-azar. It literally means black fever. This is a disease caused by a tiny protozoan, and it goes right after a critical part of our immune system. You know, that network of cells in our spleen, liver, and bone marrow that's supposed to be our body's internal security force.
And here's our culprit. This little guy, a single-celled organism called Leishmania Donovani. It might be tiny, but it's an absolute master of disguise and invasion, and it is responsible for all the chaos that's about to unfold.
So, what makes this parasite so tricky? Well, for one, it's a total shapeshifter. It has two completely different forms, and which one you see depends entirely on where it's living. You see, when it's inside its insect host, it's what's called a promastigote. It's long, it's got a tail, it's mobile, and it's ready to infect. But the second it gets inside a mammal, like you or me, it completely transforms. It becomes an amastigote, this little oval blob that's an expert at hiding inside our own cells. And that switch, that's the secret to its survival. Okay, so how does this two-faced parasite even get from a tiny little insect into a person in the first place? Well, it all comes down to a classic chain of infection.
Think of it like a heist. It all starts when a tiny sandfly bites an infected animal, could be a dog, a fox, a rodent, and picks up the parasite. Inside that fly, the parasite multiplies like crazy and changes into its infectious form. Then, the sandfly bites a human, and just like that, it injects its microscopic cargo right into our system.
Now, once it's inside the human body, this is where the parasite's journey gets really sinister. It doesn't just try to fight our immune system, it hijacks it.
So just like you'd expect, our immune system immediately sounds the alarm. It sends out its frontline soldiers, these big white blood cells called macrophages, to rush to the site of the bite and take care of the intruders.
And the macrophages, they do their job perfectly. They find these invading Leishmania parasites and just swallow them whole. The whole point of this is to trap them, break them down, and destroy them. End of story, right?
Wrong. And this is the brilliant and honestly terrifying twist. The parasite isn't destroyed. No way. Instead of being digested, it actually thrives. It uses that hostile environment inside the very cell that's meant to kill it as its own personal incubator.
So the parasite literally turns our own defenders against us. They're like Trojan horses. It just multiplies and multiplies, safe inside these macrophages, which then unknowingly carry it all through our blood and lymphatic system, giving it a free ride straight to our spleen, liver, and bone marrow.
And this internal takeover, it leads to a whole cascade of devastating symptoms. We're talking high, unpredictable fevers, chills, serious weight loss, and anemia that makes the skin pale. As the parasite does its damage, the liver and lymph nodes start to swell up. The body is just pushed to its absolute limit.
But out of all those symptoms, there's one that really stands out. It's the hallmark of this disease, splenomegaly. That means a massively enlarged spleen. It happens because the spleen is just working on overdrive, trying to fight the infection, and it gets completely overwhelmed by these parasite-filled cells.
So with consequences this serious, you can imagine that identifying this hidden enemy is absolutely critical. But because it's so good at hiding, actually diagnosing it, well, it's not always so simple.
Yeah, trying to find this parasite is a real challenge. I mean, the absolute best way is to take a sample directly from the spleen, but that's super risky. A much safer and more common bet is a bone marrow sample. Doctors can look under a microscope for those little amastigotes hiding inside the cells. Blood tests can help. They can tell you if you've been exposed, but they can't always confirm if you have an active infection right now. It's a real diagnostic puzzle.
Now, this whole journey can absolutely be fatal if it's just left to run its course, but the good news is we have figured out ways to fight back, and we can attack this thing on multiple fronts.
The main weapon in our arsenal is a specific class of drugs that contain a heavy metal called antimony.
These compounds are really good at targeting and killing the parasite, basically stopping the disease in its tracks.
But just treating sick people isn't enough to solve the problem for good. The real solution is a full-on, four-pronged attack. You have to treat the infected people to stop the cycle, you have to control the disease in animals, you have to go after the sandflies themselves, and you have to teach communities how to stay safe. You have to tackle it from every single angle.
And you know what? A lot of this comes down to really simple, practical stuff. Using insect repellent, sleeping under a good bed net, spraying insecticide, even just plastering up the cracks and walls where these sandflies like to breed. It might sound small, but when a whole community does it, these little steps create a powerful shield.
Which brings us to the big final question. We have the tools. We know how to diagnose, treat, and even prevent visceral leishmaniasis. So why does it still threaten millions of people around the world? It's a pretty powerful reminder that just having the medical solution, well, that's only the first step in a much, much larger and more complicated global health challenge.